Yes. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here today to remember and think about Pearl. I'd like to begin the service this afternoon in loving memory of her with a reading from Alvin Fine. It's called Birth is a Beginning. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a going, a growing from stage to stage. From childhood to maturity and youth to age, from innocence to awareness and ignorance to knowing, from foolishness to discretion, and then perhaps to wisdom, from weakness to strength or strength to weakness, and often back again, from health to sickness, and back we pray to health again, from offense to forgiveness, from loneliness to love, from joy to gratitude, from pain to compassion, and grief to understanding, from fear to faith, from defeat to defeat to defeat, until looking backward or ahead, we see that victory lies not at some high point along the way, but in having made the journey, stage by stage, a sacred pilgrimage. Birth is a beginning and death a destination, but life is a journey, a sacred pilgrimage made stage by stage, from birth to death to life everlasting. Our everlasting memories of Pearl will be shared this afternoon. And there's another poem I'd like to share before we start those remembrances. And the poem reads, I'd like the memory of me to be a happy one. I'd like to leave an afterglow of smiles when life is done. I'd like to leave an echo whispering softly down the ways of happy times and laughing times and bright and sunny days. I like the tears of those who grieve to dry before the sun, of happy memories that I leave when my life is done. The first person to share their memories of Pearl will be Danny.
I promise to keep it shorter than yesterday's closing arguments. I am Dan Martin, a man of great depths, or so says the plaque at my synagogue that Pearl and Joe Friedman put up for me. I still try to figure out how can I meet that goal. Pearl was born in September of 1930 in Philadelphia to her parents, Anna Beichman and Herman Mamet. She grew up in West Philadelphia, graduating West Philadelphia High School in June of 1948. Afterwards, she worked as a dental assistant. She married Joe in 1951. Joe, if you need it, I have your marriage license number, just to prove it now. Military service had them relocating down to South Carolina, where David and Lisa were born in 1955 and 1956, respectively. After the military service, the family moved back to Philadelphia. In the early 80s, they moved to the Winfield section of Philadelphia. That is also where I lived. We shared the same block. We had a common alley. It also turned out that Joe was the first cousin of a good friend of my mother's, Harriet Zimmerman. Harriet and Ed's daughters, Karen and Mindy, are here today. In the late 60s, the Friedmans moved to Cherry Hill. My family also moved to New Jersey, residing in Burlington County. In 1980, Pearl went to college and completed her undergraduate degree from Rutgers Camden. In the 1980s, Pearl increased her activity in the Camden County League of Women Voters, assuming the president's position. I was overhearing some of the people giving their condolences to Joe, and they are still associated with the Camden County League of Women Voters. I think Pearl would have been happy, and Joe was very pleased. In 1985, the death of her son, David, removed much joy from her life. However, 5-year-old Andy and 2-year-old Natalie added a lot of that joy back. This was increased with the soon-to-come great-grandchildren of Ash and Caleb. One of the things I always enjoyed when I visited Pearl's house and Joe's house is looking at the stuff that she bought for you. Boy, you were given many weird gifts from Bubby and Double Bubby. Does he agree? Okay. See, other things about Pearl. Pearl and Joe raised collies. No more to say about that. Also, Pearl enjoyed taking their dogs to visit the sick and elderly. She also enjoyed being on the receiving end in the last couple years of her life, when her age was beyond being able to care for dogs. Pearl also took great pride in participating in the Jewish Federation Bookmates program. She both read books and listened to young children reading back to her. This give and take increased the young ones' skills greatly. Pearl collected turtles, if you didn't know. In anticipation of leaving the Cherry Hill house, a 4-bedroom split level in Cherry Hill, she started giving me some. Every time I visited, there was another turtle. I forgot to bring one today to put up here. I look at them and I still think of her. Most of the turtles appear to have been collected on their vacations. I look at the turtles and I remember them. I probably have several dozen. I display them proudly. In closing, my mother passed away in January of 2000. Prior to my mom's death, she asked Pearl to watch over me. Pearl did. Now I'm a little bit more on my own.
Thank you, Danny. One gift above all others God gives us to treasure, one that knows no time, no place, and gold cannot measure. The precious, poignant, tender gift of memory that we'll keep, our dear ones within in our hearts, although God gives them sleep. It brings back long remembered things, a song, a word, a smile, and our world's a better place because we had Pearl for a while. Coming up next to share their memories of Pearl is Mitchell. If you're Mitchell, yes.
This has been a long, arduous, and painful year for Pearl, Joe, and especially Lisa. I have very, very long memories of my Aunt Pearl. Joe, in fact, was my mother's brother. And Pearl has been in my life and in my memory for almost as long as I can remember. Thank goodness her suffering is over. However, there are some very fond memories that I have of my aunt. I can recall very, very clearly. My father had a grocery store, and in fact, Christmas Eve was the busiest night of the year for the grocery store. My father worked very late on those nights, but even though we were Jewish, I had a set of choo-choo trains, electric trains. And what would happen is my father would come home late from the store, and the trains were not even out. We would put them up for Christmas, even though we didn't celebrate Christmas. Joe and Pearl would come over to our house and help Dad work on that train tracks and whatnot. It was about an 8 by 11 setup. And in fact, when, of course, my sister and I came down in the morning, we would see the trains. And Uncle Joe, and particularly Aunt Pearl, who had good dexterity. And we would put up these little plastic telephone lines, and Pearl would string them with thread throughout the whole thing. That is one of my clearest and fondest memories. I was, in fact, the ring bearer at their wedding. My sister, who is here also, was the flower girl. And she frequently brings up the idea that as a very young child, she had apparently a frilly dress, which she lifted up in front of everybody at the wedding. And as far back as I can remember, my aunt would remark about that. I can honestly say that, in fact, and I hope I won't offend anyone, but my Aunt Pearl was one hot-looking lady. And what I want to tell you is the idea that at my bar mitzvah, she was without a doubt the sharpest and sexiest looking person there. In addition, when in fact, I was married, Aunt Pearl, of course, was very big with politics, and particularly the women's liberation movement. And she would admonish me that I needed to make sure that my wife got all the benefits of being a liberated lady. And I, being a little sarcastic, came back at my aunt and said, well, sure, I've liberated my wife. I even bought her a washing machine, right, Joan? She didn't like that very much, but it was funny. In addition to the women's lib issue and whatnot, I have been in constant contact with my uncle and aunt, and in fact, when I first got my doctoral degree, I even practiced as a psychologist with my uncle in Cherry Hill when he had an office there. Eventually, I moved on. However, Aunt Pearl would type my uncle's psychological reports. And even though I had a doctorate in the same degree as my uncle, she would admonish me, telling me that because she typed those reports, she knew more about psychology than I would ever know. There were many, many happy years of dinners at their house. And even though we were Jewish, we were not kosher. And Aunt Pearl's spiral ham was about the best damn thing that I had ever eaten. All I can say is that I'm very glad that her suffering is over. It was a rough year, and fortunately I was able to be present at various and sundry times. I will sorely miss my aunt, and I'm sure that Lisa, the kids, and Uncle Joe will miss too. May she rest in peace. Thank you.
Thank you, Mitchell. There's a poem that reads, "Do not stand here today and weep. I am not here. I do not sleep. I am 1,000 winds that blow. I am the diamond glints on snow. I am the sunlight on ripened grain. I am the soft, gentle autumn rain. And in the quiet morning's hush, I am the swift, uplifting rush of birds in ever-circling flight. I am the soft starshine at night. Do not stand here today and cry. I am not there. I did not die. I will always live in the minds of those who love me and those who I've loved." Next to share their memories, I would like to call up Andy.
The first time I heard the famous Laurel Thatcher Ehrlich quote, "Well-behaved women seldom make history," was from my grandmother. My grandmother certainly was not well-behaved. Tough, loud, and opinionated, she wasn't one to be confined by social expectations. She may not have made it into the history books, but she was essential in my history and certainly will be in my future. Her fierce spirit made her unforgettable, leaving an indelible mark on everyone's lives she touched. She made me feel empowered. I remember how proud she was when, as a mother, a grandmother, and a housewife, she went back to school to study English. I recall her passion when she would tell me about her participation with the League of Women Voters and how important it was for me and my sister to grow up and be heard. She served as a consistent reminder to me that women can be stunningly beautiful, which she was, strong, independent, and it was even okay to be a boss and demand what you want from this life. She was all of these things, and she was also an extremely loving wife to my grandfather. My grandparents' marriage I would credit as one of the greatest life lessons I've had the privilege to witness. They loved each other so deeply and were two of the most stubborn people I've ever seen. I can guarantee that there is not a soul in this room who has not witnessed many of their infamous battles. If you wanted to go toe-to-toe with my bubby, you needed to come prepared. Most likely you were going to lose whether you were correct or not. Stubborn as a mule and sharp as a tack, she wasn't someone you wanted to cross. But if you were lucky enough to have her on your good side, you'd have a loyal champion for life. Despite her tough exterior and sometimes sharp tongue, my grandmother's love was as fierce as her opinions. She had a soft spot for her grandchildren, often showing her affection in her unique ways. She would give my sister and me what she termed bubby hugs. They were huge, fierce, squishing hugs. As a child, I recall trying to wiggle away from them in fear of suffocation. But as I got older, I would lean in fully, and they meant the world to me. One of her passions was genealogy. She spent countless hours researching our family history, piecing together the stories of those who came before us. Her dedication to preserving our family history meant making sure we knew the strength and resilience that ran through our veins, and we definitely have that. In her final days, my grandmother's tough exterior softened. She was calm and gentle and childlike. It had been a brutal few years at the end of her life, and watching her soften and prepare to pass on was both heart-wrenching and beautiful. It was a poignant reminder of the cyclical nature of life and the enduring impact one person can have on many. Her legacy is one of strength, resilience, and a love that could be as tough as it was tender. I will always cherish her fiery spirit, her passion for our family history, and the unyielding but sometimes uncompromising love she showed me. Her life was a testament to the fact that well-behaved women may seldom make history, but those who dare to be themselves leave an unforgettable mark on those who love them. Thank you.
Thank you, Andy. The last couple of years have been difficult for Pearl, but I'd like to read this poem as if Pearl were saying these things to us. Don't grieve for me, for now I'm free. I followed the path God laid for me. I took God's hand when I heard God call. I turned my back and left it all. I could not stay another day to laugh, to love, to work or play. Tasks left undone must stay that way. I have found that place at the close of day. And if my parting has left a void, then fill it with remembered joy, a friendship shared, a laugh, a kiss. Yes, these things I too will miss. Be not burdened with times of sorrow. I wish you the sunshine of tomorrow. My life's been full, I've savored much. Good friends, good times, a loved one's touch. Perhaps my time seemed all too brief, but don't lengthen it now with undue grief. Lift up your heart and share with me. God wanted me now. God set me free. For remembrances about a beautiful wife, I'd like to call up Joe.
First of all, thank you all for coming. I lucked out. I married an extraordinary lady. Now, if you're normal, you'll wince a little bit and say, he's got to say that. You know, he's got to extol it. So I'll try to stick to the facts, the documents that were used in court I could have used today. But I have a few to share with you. My wife was born into a terrible family in the sense that they were abysmally poor, more abysmally ill-suited to each other, and were doomed to divorce. Fortunately, they both loved their daughter. You wonder where this tough as nails and loving person came from. Her father, for example, wanted her to quit school and get a job and help this impoverished family. Impoverished. Pearl literally lived in other people's hand-me-downs, and there was cardboard in her shoes. Her mother fought that battle, and Pearl went on to graduate high school in the academic thing, knowing that there was no chance of college. So she went to work. Let's jump forward a couple of years and see other aspects of her, but see the toughness that was engendered right away. I should add also that her father was chronically ill. She missed gobs of school, staying home to take care of her father while her mother worked and took care of the house and earned the money. At about 18, when her parents did divorce, Pearl and her good friend Rosie Ayezi and one other girl whose name I can't recall walked into a Center City modeling agency, to inquire what's up there. The other two girls were sent home with brochures. Pearl was instead giving a photo shoot right away. She didn't leave without her doing it. And 2 weeks or 3 weeks later, she was in one of those preliminaries to Miss Philadelphia. She had no dancing skills. She didn't sing particularly well. She didn't juggle or all the other things that contestants do. She simply stood there, was good enough to become a finalist. She did not win. But she began to realize that she had a good look. She never really appreciated that in herself for a long time. Let's jump again. We married, as you've already been told. And at that time, things were developing in my work and our life together. And you know that we had children. They were now teenagers or more. And Pearl got involved with the League of Women Voters, which she considers her greatest education of all. She loved what she did there. She admired several women who were her seniors, who ran the place, and spoke of them all of her life, and was really interested. She went on these grand marches to D.C., taking our daughter along with her. She was really involved. At one point, as you've already heard, she became the president for a while. When we were in service and came back, we had, by that time, established ourselves, and things were really going quite well, and we had a lifetime of real joy. I loved Pearl, and she loved me. We traveled, we went all over, we did almost everything together. We have been together for almost 80 years. We've been married a little over 73, and I knew her before that. I got to tell you one or two stories about ourselves, and I'll try not to be too long-winded. And I can't document this, I can only tell you it's been my lived experience. I was on a picnic with another young lady. A group of us decided to go horseback riding. I didn't know she was part of the group. The lady I was with couldn't ride, so I excused myself and galloped by horse a little bit further along, and somebody came shooting by me and said something to me. I had no idea what she said. So I decided to catch up with that person, and I saw Pearl. I absolutely was thunderstruck. I met this lovely, vivacious girl, and I arranged to be the guy who was going to drive everybody home in my father's truck. And I arranged that she should be one of them, and I redid the itinerary in my head so that she'd be the last one, and I'd have more time to talk to her. I dumped the other girl completely. The next day I met Ted Ehrlich, a friend of mine who lived around the corner. And Ted said to me, anything interesting happened at a picnic? I said, yeah. He said, what? I said, I met the girl I'm going to marry. What's her name? I only know her first name, it's Pearl. But I found out, and I pursued it. Pearl tells me that she saw me get on the bus, and it was no accident that she went by me or that she called out something to me. Believe it or don't believe it, that's our story. Everything I did was done through Pearl. We raised a family together. We traveled together. We redid a house together. When I say we, I'm taking credit I don't deserve. I went to work. She's sanding down banisters, repainting everything, etc. Doing it with your father and your mother, who helped us out in our first apartment, etc. When I began to write and publish professionally, Pearl was not just my typist. Every idea I had, we talked over. She would correct, Joe, you've skipped tenses again. You get all in one tense. Joe, you've repeated that one word too much. Let's find a synonym for it here. In other words, she helped me greatly to do the writings that I did do. And she did maybe a dozen of those for us. These last years were not deserving of her. A simple thing like a lens in your eye goes loose and people replace it. She had that done and our doctor was away. Will's Eye Hospital said, you cannot wait, it's up against your optic nerve. We had another doctor, he blinded her. At the same time, she was diagnosed with mouth cancer. She went through the cancer surgery blind, couldn't see what they were doing, had to trust, etc. I won't say she got through them. We continued to live. She found out how to live with lesser sight. She has not seen my face in many a year, which is the only blessing. But she couldn't read. She's a literary person who loves to read. She couldn't read. She couldn't watch television. I had to do movies at home so I could stop action and give her a synopsis of what the scene was about so she could fill in with whatever she got. So these last were terribly unkind. And then when things were going very nicely at our assisted living place, I'm preparing a cup of coffee for us, and I hear a rattle of a glass, and I turn around and Pearl is having a stroke, clearly. So I got her to the hospital quickly. But everything went wrong. She happened to have a brain bleed, so you couldn't use the usual medicine to control the stroke. And she awakened somewhat paralyzed. We had no idea how paralyzed she might be. We took the chance of letting her live. And of course, she became totally paralyzed up and down her right side, from her toes to her cheeks. Couldn't swallow, was choking, and she wanted to die. And she said it clearly, and we have talked about this together for years. And she said, I wish the stroke had taken me. We could have ended on a decent note. Unfortunately, she lived another 4 years like this and was saying at the end, this is a mistake. I want to die. And just couldn't seem to die. Finally, it released her, and she's gone. I know I'm perhaps overdramatic, but I absolutely love this lady in every way. You've been told how we fight, and we did, day and night. It could be about whether this mic was on or off. Neither one of us would cede an inch. I'm sorry, I'm that way. People called us the battling Friedmans, or they reminded us of the old radio show, the Bickersons. It was great fun. I had a worthy opponent. And when it was over, we went to bed. That was my companion and my lover. No problem for us. Sorry for those we inflicted ourselves on, but yeah. It's over now, and I'm glad it is. I really thought I got lucky, and I got the right one.
You can shed tears that she is gone, or you can smile because she has lived. You can close your eyes and hope that she will come back, or you can open your eyes and see all that she has left. Your cell phone? Okay. Your heart can be empty because you can't see her, or you can be full of the love that you shared. You can turn your back on tomorrow and live for yesterday, or you can be happy for tomorrow because of yesterday. You can remember her and only that she is gone, or you can cherish her memory and let it live on. You can cry, close your mind, be empty and turn your back, or you can do what she would want. Smile, open your eyes, love, and go on. At the rising of the sun and its going down, we'll remember Pearl Mehmet Friedman. At the blowing of the wind and the chill of winter, we'll remember an amazing wife. At the opening of the buds and rebirth of spring, we'll remember a loving mother. At the blueness of the skies and the warmth of summer, we'll remember a dear grandmother. At the rustling of the leaves and the beauty of autumn, we'll remember a great-grandmother. At the beginning of the year and when it ends, we will remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now a part of us as we remember her. When we are weary and in need of strength, when we are lost and sick at heart, when we have joy we crave to share, when we have decisions that are difficult to make, when we have achievements that are based on hers, we will remember her. As long as we live, she too will live, for she is now and will always be a part of us, as today and always we remember her. I'll ask if we can just take a moment of silence to remember how Pearl touched your life. I'm going to ask if we can all please rise for the closing memorial prayer. O God, full of compassion, thou who dwellest on high, grant perfect peace under the wings of your presence among the holy and pure to a beloved wife, mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and friend, Pearl Mehmet Friedman, who is gone to her eternal home. Master of mercy, we beseech you, remember all the worthy and righteous deeds that she performed in the land of the living, and may her soul be bound up in the bond of eternal life. Be thou her possession, and may she always rest in the tranquility of peace. As we say together, Amen. Amen. You may be seated. Remember me in your heart, your thoughts, your memories, the times we loved, the times we cried, the times we fought, and the times we laughed. For if you always think of me, I will never be gone. That opportunity gives people a chance to share their stories. And the family has invited everyone here back to Olga's Diner following the conclusion of services here to do just that. Tell her story. There could be stories that some of you know that Joe has no idea about. And more funny stories and more meaningful stories about Pearl will do more to help her legacy live on. Another way to help her legacy live on is contributions to the League of Women Voters, of course, something so important in her life and so meaningful in her life that she passed down to generations, and also to the ACLU. These contributions in her memory will make the work that she lived for also continue to live on.